Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creed. My friends, I want to welcome you into the show today. Some of you are going to probably be offended by what you're going to hear today. I just want to give you a warning, a heads up for you to leave if you think you are a snowflake or you're an idealist. You're not going to like what you hear today on the show. You're not. I want to warn you, because I take no joy in telling you what I'm about to say. The MAGA movement has been fractured overwhelmingly by the snakes from within, the fake America First individuals who, instead of uniting America under what keeps us together, they'd instead just rather pick on Israel. They'd rather attack Jews. They'd rather do everything except bring people together, bring the movement together, see what was happening from the opposition, and instead would rather make unseemly alliances with the other side in a way that alienates the most productive amongst us and those who see the writing on the wall. You might say, Austin, you're being very cryptic. Why are you being cryptic? Well, I'm so nauseous from this. Every time I get on X, every time I jump on social media, I get nauseous, frankly. You have so many race hustlers out there. I get it. It's all about the money. I get it. Well, half of the time, they probably don't even believe what they're saying. It's all for money. It's for controversy. I get it. I don't go for that. A, guys, I have a soul. And B, because I don't see any benefit in being a heckler in the audience of, the audience of intelligence and good conversation. I don't see any benefit in that. Instead, what I do see benefit in is discussing with you how we are going to save the conservative movement. Because you have individuals like Michael Savage, great guy, great mentor to a lot of people in this space, who's been around longer than I've been, born. But bringing up the compassionate conservative movement through the Bush years, and then you gave birth to Obama, who then gave rise to Trump and the MAGA movement, which I hate to break it to you, the America First movement was kind of ripped off from Woodrow Wilson, because he was the first one who ran on this anti-war, more nationalistic movement. You may not know that, by the way, but it's true. And now we have a fracture of the almost more national socialists of the so-called right wing, and then you have the traditional conservatives. And I don't know how this happened. How do you figure that you have people on the left, the pro-Palestine people, and then you have the pro-America so-called movement, but they're anti-Israel, who would rather be more anti-Israel than pro-America? I don't understand that, and yet they say they hate each other. They agree on so many things. That's why today, as someone who is lesser known in the media, at least for now, I think it's time for us to bring our heads together and come up with the conservative values, and honestly the independent values too, that should define the movement. Because we need to set some ground rules. I'm sick and tired of these bad actors, these professional agitators, and these scum-sucking... I won't get mad. I won't do it. Nope. I won't get mad. Nope. It diminishes the platform when I get angry. I have a lot of pent-up rage for these bastards. I hate them. But you know what? I'm not going to get angry today. I told myself before I jumped on this show today, I said, I know I'm not going to get angry today. I'm not going to swear. I'm not going to get hysterical. I'm going to be very focused on what the actual message is, not the emotions behind the message. Because that's what I get hung up on. And I think a lot of us end up that way too. We get lost in the delivery. We get lost in everything around what we actually want to say. And in doing so, it gets other on our sides ammo to attack us and not what we say. To attack how we said it, and again, not what we said. And in doing so, it alienates the know-nothings from educating themselves on the platform, and instead they focus on you. Because make no mistake, I think now more than ever before in recorded history, it's become more about who says something and not what's actually said. You want proof? A little side note. We'll get back to the conservative talking points that I believe we need to address as the so-called America First platform, which I think has been largely destroyed. Does anybody ever watch the show called The Secret Life of Mormon Wives? Has anybody watched that show? The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives? Yeah, for some reason, the show is becoming enormous. And what's interesting to me is you take the talking points of the Red Pill, Manosphere, guys like Big John, guys like Rollo Tomasi, guys like Coach Craig Adams, these kinds of guys, Obsidian, these kind of guys, right? Steph is Cold. You take these people, right? And you take the talking points away from men, white men, black men, and you give them to white women, overwhelmingly. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, whoa, you mean prenups are good? Wow. Yeah, girl, go get that prenup. Yeah, girl, don't let your deadbeat-ass husband get away with taking your money. Now, I stand here and I think to myself, my God, you mean to tell me your baby father, your husband, your ex-husband, whoever, should get nothing? But meanwhile, for the last 30 years, guys who I've listened to for years, we've been saying the same shit the whole time, and all of a sudden, instead of being misogynist pieces of garbage, sexist, racists, you name it, all of a sudden, these women take the talking points, they run with it, and they're geniuses overnight. They got merch now about how you need to get a prenup and protect yourself and protect your kids. And I'm like, wait a minute. Is this not what the Red Pill's been saying for the last 30 years? But I digress. Again, it's not what's said, but who says it. I'm a white man with Jewish background, and I can guarantee you half the things I've already said, everybody's gonna be like, oh, he's a Jew. He doesn't do his opinion, doesn't matter. He probably has friends in Hollywood. And immediately, if I was a black woman, if I was anything else, people would be like, oh my God, dude, this person's brilliant. Oh my God. But of course, I digress. I think I made my point. Back to what the original message of today's show was. Let's get back to the original message of today's show. What are some conservative values you think should be more relevant in today's world that is not? Because I think overwhelmingly we've lost the plot. We have lost the goal, which was not crony capitalism, not this garbage can of endless wars. And what happened to identifying the communist agenda in America, which, make no mistake about it, has been slowly infusing us with its toxins since the end of World War II, when all the communists fled the Nazis, they fled the fascists in Italy, they fled the Imperial Japanese, and guess where they came? America, the UK, Germany, Spain, France, you name it. They all came, Netherlands, Belgium, you name it. They all went to the Western countries, and they set up shop, and lo and behold, we now have what we originally were trying to get rid of, what the fascists and the National Socialists were trying to get rid of, which was the communist bullshit, gender theory, communal garbage, is now saturating every university, online forum, union, you name it, all these schmucks bought it lock, stock, and barrel, and all of a sudden, the very thing that we were fighting against, we now have in our mainstream media, in our universities, in the unions, and on everybody's news feed, Instagram feed, TikTok feed, X feed, you name it, it's all there. And now we traded one problem for another, and yet nobody wants to call a spade a spade. Nobody wants to say, hey guys, instead of saying, hey, let's focus on the real enemies here. Instead, we allow ourselves to be baited by these race hustling vermin who, if you don't know who Herbert Marcuse was, you should really look him up. Herbert Marcuse is the godfather of the modern day left wing in America. And don't take my word for it, that's literally what they called him when he was running what is now Columbia University's social sciences department. Oh, you didn't know that about Al Herbert. You probably don't even know who he is. Oh, yeah. His so-called Frankfurt School was absorbed by a place you might have heard of. It's called Columbia University. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And guess what? He had 11 things, 11, I think it's 11 or 12. I'd have to look. I don't have it memorized. 11 or 12 things that he believed could destroy a country from within, as opposed to people who were outright attacking the nation from without, like in Russia, like in Vietnam, Cuba, you name it, these other countries, Korea, you name it, right? He said, you know what, there's a smarter way to do this. We're going to attack from within. And the number one thing he realized upon coming to the United States and to the Western world after the war was over and all the displacement and everything that happened was it wasn't just class warfare that needed to be utilized. It was race. Race was also a weapon that they used. In fact, it was the number one thing was the creation of racism offenses. Look it up. I've done shows on this. It all ties in. We, as the so-called right wing or even the independents amongst you who are on the fence, who maybe don't like Trump, maybe don't like the radical socialist scumbags from hell, you don't know where to turn to. You think everybody's just a shyster who's trying to rip you off and lie to you. I understand. Trust me, I get it. I really do. This is why I'm not just Bible thumping. I'm not just agreeing with the right wingers who talk about told Trump's God or Jesus come back. It's all rubbish. Trump's just another man. Do I agree with a lot of things he does? It's sometimes usually a 70-30 job, but you know what? I'll take 70% than a negative 170% that I would have gotten under the she-witch from hell from San Francisco's lagoon. Those of you who do think the Kamala would have been better, you have no idea what it's like in the Bay Area. I lived there. I grew up there. I know what it's like. You don't, because you didn't. So if you want to actually do some research, I would encourage you to do that. Most people voted for her just because she was a woman and not white. If you, oh yeah, you don't want to hear it, but it's true. Anyways, I look at these No Kings protesters that kind of spurred the show today. And I think to myself, you know, for all the things I talk negatively about the left wing in America, and there's a lot of ammo to be utilized, you can trust me on that one, they have at least the illusion of a organized platform, which really we don't have anymore. We did back in 2016. We kind of did in the election again this last time, but we really didn't have a unified message. We had basically what we didn't want was the majority and a minority of what we actually did want. And that's one of the oldest tricks in the book is instead of promising what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you what you don't want. So that's why we need to talk about what do we want? What do you want in the country today? What is it that you look at when you look at the negative and the positive and you come away at the end of the day, you're laying in your bed, you're looking up at the ceiling in the darkness, and you think to yourself, what do I want? If I had the power today or tomorrow to make the changes, what would these changes be and why? That's what I want to ask you. I think it's something that a lot of people are afraid to answer. They'd rather just heckle from the stands or troll on the internet and not actually come up with solutions, not actually come up with policy revisions, things that are actually going to do some kind of good or make some kind of actual measurable change. I have a ton of things that I would like to do, and I've touched on them in the past. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at my old shows. But I think I need to do a whole show again on what I would do and why if I ran for Congress, which I eventually want to do. I have not declared a platform yet, but I do want to run in Idaho because I live in Idaho. I would love to run for Congress. And I do believe that there is a message that a lot of people are going to connect with. I do believe that we need these conservative values, but we also need to have a strong firewall of not falling for race as a shorthand for culture and instead allow ourselves to have a dynamic discussion, because I can sure bet you right now that the left wing will not allow you to have this dynamic discussion. And instead we'll just castigate you as a smear job against you as a Nazi, which they do to everybody going back to, I think, Nixon? I think it goes all the way back to Richard Nixon, I believe, if not farther. And let's not fall for it. Instead, let's have a very strong platform and have very realistic goals we can achieve, things we can measurably do to ensure that we have what our parents gave us, our grandparents fought for, and we are able to make a difference in our lives, in our children and grandchildren's lives. How does that work for you? Does that work for you? Works for me. So I'll put together that list, and I'll give you all that list on the next time's show. And we can go by one by one by one by one, line by line, bullet point by bullet point, and nail this thing down to the wall so we can make some change and we can have what we stand for on this program, what we believe is correct, and what we know needs to be done on a national level. How does that work for you? I think it sounds great. My friends, take care of yourselves. I'm out of here. Peace.